The trade deadline has come and gone. It was a very busy day, and so I've got four of my colleagues here today. We've got a trade deadline roundtable for you here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hello and welcome, everybody, to what is normally the Thursday guest edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, but no guests today. Or maybe it's four guests. I've got four of my fellow co-hosts here on the line to talk about everything that went down at the trade deadline. Erik Halterman here, and with me, we've got James Anderson, Ryan Boyer, Jeff Erickson, and Todd Zola. And guys, we're just going to jump right into it because there are plenty of deals to talk about today. We're going to go through all the biggest moves. We're going to do a quick little new closer draft, trying to figure out who we'd be picking up this weekend. Then we'll end with a few smaller moves that matter as well. But I don't know about you guys. The biggest move of today, is it Mason Miller to the Padres? Jeff, do you buy that? Mason Miller, biggest deal out of nowhere?
Biggest deal is just in name, and also the return, the biggest return of any deal also for that matter. Yeah, absolutely. It changes who the closer is going to be in Sacramento. It closes who's going to be changes in San Diego, probably. Eventually, it may change Miller's career path to be a starter next year. That's eventful in and of itself. And in fact, that's the only reason why I would get on board with San Diego doing this trade is if eventually they want him starting there, because I don't think you give up a top 5 prospect in baseball merely for a closer. But yeah, huge deal there. And it just illustrated this was the year of trading closers.
Yeah, it was. We will have plenty of closer trades to discuss soon, but you mentioned the big prospect that got dealt in this Mason Miller trade, Leo DeVries. James, you got to tell us a little bit more about this guy. This is not just a top 100 prospect. This is a top 3 prospect. Is that how high he is on your rankings?
Yeah, he is on the prospect rankings. I dropped him like a few spots just among prospects on the dynasty rankings update, which is more recently updated. He's kind of right next to JJ Weatherholt in sort of the 75-ish range on the dynasty rankings. And I think the big thing to get out of the way with DeVries first is just the age to level component. When you're looking at his high A numbers, he's the youngest player at that level, and he's in the same signing class as guys like Jesus Made and Luis Pena of the Brewers, who are top 10 prospects, but they're at single A. So DeVries, just a very advanced hitter, controls the zone. It's kind of a question of like how much power he gets to 3, 4, 5 years down the line, but very, very high floor prospect, and probably will be Jacob Wilson's double play partner in a couple of years.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Something exciting for, I guess, Vegas fans it'll be by then. But let's go to you on this one, Todd. Mason Miller joins a very crowded San Diego bullpen. Robert Suarez, Jason Adam, Adrian Morejon. I think I'm still maybe even forgetting someone as well.
Estrada, yeah.
Jeremiah Estrada. There you go. Thanks, Jeff. Does Mason Miller just walk in and immediately close, Todd?
I'm really surprised. As soon as I heard this trade, I figured Cease and Suarez are a package somewhere, right? We can't trade Cease because it's only 1 year, but we had Suarez, and I think, I can think of at least one team that I figured would be interested, but no. Yeah, based upon the return, I suppose you got to say it, but you got to figure Miller's going to close, but damn, Suarez could be the best closer this year. And I know the Padres are good about managing the bullpen, and we'll figure out a way to make them all happy. But I don't, upsetting apple cart, I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to readjust saves a little bit later, and I'm sure Ryan's doing it for us, Roof, and I guess you got to go Miller. Trade, as James says, the number 3 guy overall, for a setup man.
Yeah, Suarez hasn't done anything to lose the job, but I don't understand why you'd acquire Mason Miller other than hoping to have him close. Ryan, jumping over to you with the boring half of this deal. Mason Miller gone from the 9th inning in Sacramento. Who do we go pick up in the Athletics bullpen?
Gosh, I really don't know. I mean, Jack Perkins is the most talented guy in the bullpen. He wound up with the save yesterday. I think he pitched 2 innings yesterday. It kind of drew suspicions that something might be going on with Mason Miller because he was unavailable due to a non-injury, and now we find out why that was the case. But Jack Perkins, I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't put him in the rotation. He's also almost surely one of their most talented starters as well. He would be the guy, I guess. I know we're going to do a little closer draft later. He would be the guy if I was forced to pick one out of that bullpen. He would be the guy. But I can't imagine that anyone has a real good handle on that bullpen right now, and I would include Mark Kotze in that as well.
What about Tyler Ferguson?
All right. Tyler Ferguson, a name there to know as well. Basically, though, it seems like we're losing one proven closer with this deal, probably Suarez, and we're not really gaining any sure things. We'll see if we get any sure things later on in some of the other deals. But let's move on to Carlos Correa, back to the Astros. A bit of a fun one here. Let's start with you on this one, James. Carlos Correa having a down year, although he stayed healthy, which would be the one thing that we were really worried about with Carlos Correa. Do you think a healthy Carlos Correa back in Houston, are we going to get a vintage performance from him hitting in front of the Crawford boxes? Oh, I think you're muted, James.
Sorry, yeah, it would just have to be a complete blind shot on that one. Like he's just been such a underwhelming fantasy contributor, specifically because of the position he plays. Like it's just so hard to get absolutely zero speed from your shortstop or your middle infielder. And I would expect the offensive production to pick up a little bit just because he's going to be so excited to be back in Houston. But like he's just injuries have taken a major toll on him. And I would expect them to, give him strategic days off and stuff. So like he'll get you counting stats. He'll get you runs and RBI, especially. But he's just such a boring fantasy player to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Any of you other ones want to jump in and say, no, actually, I think this is going to revitalize Carlos Correa. I'd go trade for him right now if I could.
I think he'll benefit from the Crawford boxes. I like the extra position of eligibility. I don't know if that's going to revitalize him though. I think it'll, being at home, former home and being with a contender will certainly help though. It's nothing you have to go crazy about. He hasn't been a good fantasy player for about 5 years, since he stopped running. He's just okay. He can maybe hit for average, occasionally has some power, but I'm not really super thrilled with him.
Yeah, a 4 category guy for sure. Well, hopefully a 4 category guy. He hasn't really done a lot in any category this season. Do we think he's going to pick up third base eligibility, Ryan?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they say they're going to put him at third base. I'm interested to see what the Astros do with the rest of those guys. I mean, they picked up Ramon Urias as well, with Jesus Sanchez taking over in left field. You've got to think that means more back at second base for Altuve. Probably he might be a full-time DH until Jordan is ready, if he ever becomes ready. That means Bryce Matthews, if Altuve goes back to second base, he could be back in the minors. Interested to see how the Astros work out the rest of their lineup as well.
Yeah, well, we're on the Twins. They were the most active team today. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 deals today alone. This is the depth chart that's been completely emptied out. Harrison Bader gone to the Phillies. Several relievers. Brock Stewart's gone. Griffin Jacks is gone. Lewis Varland is gone as well. Utility man Willie Castro gone to the Cubs. Todd, let's throw to you on this one. Are there any Twins that we should be getting excited about? Because this is probably the depth chart with the most playing time that's just opened up.
I saw a funny joke on Twitter that who knew that the Rogers twins would be traded before any actual Minnesota Twins. Then the Twins trade 10 guys today. Who knows? I mean, and then the two guys you kept, Buxton and Lewis, are injury prone, right?
Right.
So I can't. I'm looking over my depth chart unless I'm missing somebody. I don't. Does this give Edward Julian another chance? Maybe. Is that exciting? I'm over it. I wasn't, but I'm over it now. Jose Miranda. I mean, I know I'm recycling old names, and we're trying to look for some new games. Luke Keyshaw is once he. We've got him coming back soon. Is he? But what kind of support these guys going to get? I mean, it just doesn't. So just the guys at MLB Network were just thinking the Correa move was the biggest trade since Babe Ruth. The way they were talking about it, but that's how that from a real baseball sense. And I think it's kind of cool that he volunteered to move to third. Why I would think that's cool, I think we can fill in the blanks. But morale wise, I think all that stuff is good. He's going to check all those boxes, but it does not help the Astros pitching. So that's where I think that's where they needed some help as well.
Yeah, they did not end up going and getting Dylan Cease unless there's some trade that trickled in 2 hours after the deadline that I'm not yet aware of. James, this is your chance to stump for Luke Keyshaw. I know he's somebody that you have liked at times this year before he was hurt.
Yeah, I like Keyshaw. He's not I don't think he's ready to enter his prime or anything. I think he's still working on getting to power in games, but he showed before his injury how much he's willing to run. And I think you're going to see guys like Trevor Larnach and Matt Wallner, potentially maybe James Outman, get to show what they can do against some lefties.
Outman's interesting.
I was trying to fill out our projected batting orders, and Mickey Gasper was getting in there. So there's a lot of playing time available there. But yeah, Keyshaw, he's rostered in, most leagues where any kind of prospect that's about to be in the big leagues is rostered, but in shallower leagues, once he's healthy, he should be playing every day. And it's going to be tough to get wins out of Joe Ryan and Zebby Matthews going forward here. And probably not even worth speculating in that bullpen.
What do you guys think about Taj Bradley landing with the Twins? Getting a new lease on a professional life. Clearly did something in Tampa that got him out of favor. Now he's probably got a pretty clear runway to start for a while, I would think.
Yeah, the opportunity is definitely key. I mean, that's reason enough to pick him up in deeper leagues. A guy who's still 24, a guy who was supposed to be good. If you tell me he's entering a rotation, I mean, if he did just gotten called back up by the Rays, we'd still have at least some interest. And I know for myself, I just have generic interest anytime a pitcher's traded because, hey, a new pitching coaching staff gets their eyes on him. I mean, do we still apply that, though, when a guy leaves the Rays? We like to say the Rays are the team that figures everything out. But can you leave the Rays and get better?
The Rays traded Joe Ryan for Nelson Cruz.
Yep.
So, the Twins are the one team that's not afraid to trade with the Rays.
The Rays, they try. I mean, sure, they see what the pitcher does well and play to the advantage. But they also try to meld the pitcher in their philosophy. And it may just be that Bradley didn't work it or didn't want to do whatever they were suggesting. I do kind of I don't mind the move to Minnesota. I think that's an interesting place to go. We don't know exactly where the Rays are going to be playing in the future, whether, would have loved to have seen them, in the Tropicana. I don't want to see Tropicana, but, it's not the greatest place to pitch Target Field, but it's not bad.
All right. Well, we're on the Twins. They dealt one of the best relievers at the deadline, Jhoan Duran, and he is heading to the Phillies. The Phillies, a team that has been fine, not quite using a traditional closer, and Duran himself has been someone who's been fine, not quite being a traditional closer. But Ryan, do you expect Duran to be just a straight-up closer the rest of the way for the Phillies?
I don't know if we're going to have Rob Thompson come out and actually say those words, but I mean, gosh, I would be stunned if that wasn't the case. I mean, the Phillies have kind of been sharing between Orion Kerkering and Matt Strahm of late. I mean, they're pretty clear drops outside of Holds leagues now. I think it's got to be Duran Eric and I, we had a conversation on Twitter. We both kind of felt like that was a pretty good deal for the Phillies, but I mean, that's still a pretty healthy package to give up for a guy that's, multiple years of team control and one of the best relievers in baseball. So even if you got some pretty good incumbents, I think he's pretty much a lock for the ninth inning in Philly.
Yeah, James, I, as a Phillies fan, was very happy with the Duran deal, figuring it looked like a steal to get 2.5 seasons of one of the best relievers in baseball for two prospects that I think the Phillies could afford to give up in Mick Abel, who we've seen not look great, and also Eduardo Tate, a catching prospect. Are you high on either Abel or Tate? Is this less of a good deal than I thought it was?
No, I think this was probably my favorite, like, sort of big deal of the deadline in terms of the team that was the buyer. Like, I think I would do this deal 10 times out of 10 if I were any other team and had comparable prospects. I mean, I'm sure the Twins like Abel more than a lot of other teams. I'm sure they like Tait a lot and think that they can turn him into a good defensive catcher, which I'm sure a lot of teams were skeptical of. But you got an extremely free swinging catching prospect in Abel and a pitcher who's basically got a really good big league debut to his name and then a lot of not much surrounding that. So I just think it was a massive win for the Phillies to get Duran, who is just such a key piece to bring that bullpen together. I was really kind of scratching my head at a lot of the Twins moves in terms of just the prospects they were getting back. Like, they just weren't like my kind of prospects really. So would not be all that pleased with the direction of the Twins. I thought they had a pretty bad draft too. So tough day for them in my opinion.
Disco Dave says that they have said Duran's a closer in case there was any doubt.
Oh, nice. Good to know. So Jhoan Duran, well, no picking him up. He's obviously picked up everywhere, but I guess that means don't expect many saves the rest of the way for Matt Strahm or Orion Kerkering. Let's take a look at some of the other top reliever deals. Ryan Helsley was traded, and we assumed Ryan Helsley would have been good enough to be the closer wherever he went, but no chance he's going to get a single save the rest of the way as a member of the Mets, right, Jeff?
I want to say no chance. I mean, Diaz sometimes hasn't been used on back-to-back days. He goes on a walk on the wild side every once in a while. I could see them saying, okay, he has that 20 pitch inning, something like that. Helsley gets the next day. They're intending to be competitive every single day. And I think Helsley just gives them that pivot. And they have the depth now with Rogers as well. I thought the Mets had a fun trade deadline. They're adding some length to that bullpen, and they don't have an ace still. But there was no ace on the trade market there, especially if Cease wasn't going to get dealt, and I'm dubious of that, even if him being an ace too, for that matter. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to hold on to Helsley in your redraft leagues. It's going to be tough initially, but, players get hurt. They take, we'll see usage a little bit there, but you're right. It's unlikely to get the saves. It would, of all the teams for him to land on, that was probably one of the worst ones.
Yeah, Todd, what formats would you be still keeping Ryan Helsley in? Where do you think the cutoff is? Is he still worth keeping in a 12-team RotoWire online championship, for example?
Maybe in a Helsley only league. No, Hells no. Diaz is the guy. Of course, Jeff's right. You're going to get a couple. You're not going to say. You never say always. Just never say never. I mean, those are two words you just don't use in fantasy baseball. There's always a little bit in between. I'm not 100% positive that Helsley's the next guy at this point. I think he probably is, but no. I'm 12-team RotoWire. He's gone. 15-team. I think he's gone as well, unless you count holds. I think, when you're no longer stashing, right? I mean,
right.
We're 2/3 of the way through the season. You need in FPC type leagues, you need 7 active rosters. You need 7 active reserves to manage your roster, manage the categories, keep up the most at bats you can get. Make sure that you've got the strongest pitching. There's no more stashing. I don't think anyway.
Yeah,
how about this? Ryan Helsley or Jojo Romero rest of season then? The guy who's maybe stepping in.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, Ryan. Is it Romero? Is it Riley O'Brien? Is it Gordon Graceffo? I need to learn how to say his name.
You got it.
Is it Romero?
Nailed it.
You got it.
I mean, I think it's probably got to be JoJo Romero. I know I sent out a tweet a week or so ago talking about liking Riley O'Brien. But I was kind of under the assumption that JoJo Romero would probably be traded as well. Romero had a really rough start to the season, but he's been awesome since like late April. So it doesn't really have dramatic splits. So I don't think we have to necessarily worry about the lefty righty thing with Oliver Marmol. I know Katie Wu mentioned that Graceffo is one possibility. He just got recalled though. I mean, he was moved to the bullpen full time, I think in late April, early May, something like that. And he's been good since then. I think that's the best role for him, but I don't know if they're going to throw him right into the closer role right away. I would put JoJo Romero at the top of my fab bidding. Would also put a modest bid on Riley O'Brien. Kyle Leahy kind of looked early in the season like he might be next man up, but he's been kind of getting stretched out more lately. They're talking about eventually maybe giving him a shot to start. Don't think that'll happen this year, but yeah, it's not a great clear situation, but JoJo Romero would be my preference with Riley O'Brien next on the list.
All right. We got a couple other big relievers who moved today, including two of them who went to the Yankees. And James, I want you to try to help me figure out what's going to go on in the Yankees bullpen. David Bednar and Camilo Doval head to the Bronx today, but they already have Devin Williams. And hey, Luke Weaver wasn't a bad deputy anyway. Do you expect Devin Williams to just be the guy the rest of the way, or do you think you can hold on to David Bednar or maybe even Camilo Doval just in case?
I'm really excited to drop Doval where I have him because he's just been a real nightmare. Don't think he's gotten a save in like 3 weeks, and he's only been on my team for like 5 weeks. So really excited to get rid of him. There's no way he's going to get opportunities ahead of like Bednar or Weaver if something happens to Williams, just the way Doval's been pitching. But it's definitely Williams' job right now. They've kind of said that, but I could see Boone just booning things up and just falling in love with Bednar's grittiness and bulldog mentality. And like if Williams has a rough week or two, like I could see him starting to give Bednar some opportunities. But I think in most redraft leagues, I drop all those guys and try to find somebody else who's closer to getting saves because I do think Williams gets the next few chances.
Sounds fair enough to me. Anybody want to disagree and say that actually Devin Williams is losing his job, or are we in agreement there?
I just don't know. I just want to wait and see.
And they've been Williams and Weaver. They've been, and even Hill. They've been really using them. Boone's been using the heck out of them lately. So I'm not surprised at all that they went out and made this moves.
Yeah, fair enough.
I would like to hold Bednar if you can. I think Williams is definitely going to be first in line. Bednar's been, obviously he had that blip all of last season and early on this season, but he's been since then better than Williams. He's got the closer pedigree. He's also under team control for next year. Presumably they're going to want him to close for them next year. I don't know. Maybe Boone wants to go ahead and give him a crack at it this year at some point too, but yeah, Williams is the guy right now, I think. But if you can hold on to Bednar, I would.
Yeah, I've got an AL only league that's bidding tonight, so I don't have the luxury of waiting to find out. I have to try to speculate. So I'm debating between Bednar or an Oakland Athletic, a twin. It's thin gruel actually, because in all these cases, there's no sure thing. I mean, the Twins got rid of their entire bullpen. The Orioles got rid of their entire bullpen. Trying to speculate on those bullpens. I was like, okay, hey, this Kittredge thing might work out when they traded Dominguez. That joy lasted one day. It's really tough tonight. It's these Thursday night fab leagues I'm in. It's going to be really tricky for me there.
And so Lasagna got the save too. We're not picking him up.
No, I'm not taking Loaizaga there. Nope.
No, Jonathan Loaizaga. Speaking of bidding in AL only leagues, we didn't necessarily have a ton of top starting pitchers move at the deadline, but one of the best who did, Merrill Kelly, heading over to the AL. goes from Arizona to the Texas Rangers. And Merrill Kelly having quite a good season despite his age, and moves to a park that's playing incredibly pitcher-friendly this season. Jeff, are you going to throw everything you have at Merrill Kelly?
If I need a starting pitcher, I'm excited about this. Texas is playing like such a pitcher's park right now.
Yeah.
He's gonna, I think that he's probably the best starting pitcher acquired. I think. So with no Cease going anywhere, I really like Kelly. I think the landing spot. I don't know about the value in the trade, the give back, but I like what Texas did in terms of adding. I would have liked to see him add a bat too. But I like Colombe. I think he did. I think that was a good ad as well. I think that they set themselves out pretty well to make a run. And it's going to get Kumar Rocker out of the rotation. I think that's probably a good thing too.
Yeah, we had a question here about Phil Maton, who we didn't mention when we mentioned all the closer deals. The Rangers got Phil Maton, and they also got Danny Colombe. Do we expect either of those guys to close? I know, Ryan, you've been on Robert Garcia. Do you think your Robert Garcia is about to lose his job to one of those two?
I think the addition of Colombe actually probably enhances Robert Garcia's standing. Probably they can use Colombe more against lefties and a setup role, and Garcia keeps that ninth inning. I mean, he's been pretty good. I know he doesn't have the long-term closer pedigree, but I think he's a pretty good bet to keep that job.
All right. James, I noticed that the Merrill Kelly deal was one of the only ones which had multiple pretty top prospects in your top 400. We had two top 200 guys going to Arizona in this deal, two pitchers, Cole Drake and Mitch Bratt. Are either of them likely to show up this year for Arizona, or are they a couple years away?
Yeah, Drake could be up in August maybe, but I think it's more likely we see Drake early next year and then Bratt like in the middle of next year. But Bratt has just some of the best control in the minors. He's a lefty. Pitches are pretty good, but like it's more about the command and the control with Bratt. Drake, he's like in that kind of like 125-ish range on my top 400. Really had a strong showing at AA. PCL hasn't been as kind to him, but he's got like number 3 starter stuff. So this was just a really nice get, I think, for Arizona for a rental. And I definitely think Kelly was easily the best starting pitcher that changed teams. But like, is he a guy you feel great about giving the ball to in like game 3 of a playoff series? Like, I think he's just kind of okay for that role. So I think Arizona just did really well to get what they got for 2 months of Kelly.
Who is losing a rotation spot with Merrill Kelly arriving? Is it Jack Leiter or Kumar Rocker? Or is it Patrick Corbin, who has actually pitched the best of the 3 of them this year? Anybody got a nominee there?
I would guess Rocker. I mean, he hasn't had that many accumulated innings anyhow. It's probably getting close to being throttled down a little bit. So that'd be my guess.
Yeah. Anybody
You could
disagree?
You could see some stretching out. I mean, to try to keep DeGrom healthy, both Rocker and Leiter, I don't know, switching off. But I think we may see some clever managing from Bochy down the stretch. But it's one of those things where you need DeGrom to pitch well to get to the playoffs, but you need him in the playoffs, right? But you got to get there first. So at this point, you're kind of working with house money with fantasy wise, you're on house money with DeGrom, but that Bochy can't think that way. He needs for the playoffs.
While we're on the Arizona Diamondbacks, they moved one of the biggest hitters to move today. Eugenio Suarez, I guess this was technically yesterday, moves to Seattle, back to Seattle in exchange for Tyler Locklear and a couple pitchers, Juan Burgos and Hunter Cranton. Just how worried should we be for Eugenio Suarez's rest of season numbers, James? I mean, we've seen him in Seattle before, and it was not as good as we've seen Eugenio Suarez elsewhere.
Yeah, I think the MLB market on Eugenio Suarez kind of showed the gap between his fantasy value that he's banked so far and what big league teams are kind of expecting over the final 2 months. And you factor in the defense, like Matt Arnold just had an interview about like the Brewers not adding a power bat. And I think you can look at the defense and see why they didn't go after Suarez there. But, I props to Seattle because I just don't think they had to give up much at all. It's just kind of spare pieces from their system for a guy who can be a middle of the order bat for them. And yeah, so I thought it was just an easy win for the Mariners, but very clear that the bidding on him, unless Arizona just has some wild evaluation of like Tyler Locklear or something like that, it just seems like the market was very cold on just an all bat, like very little glove type of a corner rental.
Yeah.
Was Suarez one of those guys who? Sorry, Eric.
No, go ahead.
Was Suarez one of those guys who complained about just not being able to see the ball very well at all at T-Mobile? I can't remember if he was. I know Teoscar was one of those guys who did that, but I mean the numbers kind of speak for themselves. He made that mechanical adjustment last year. How much is that due to his complete turnaround, and how much of that old guy that we saw at T-Mobile who just like many players can't hit in that park, how much of that is going to come through? I mean, I think you'd have to really grasp at straws to not think that this is going to be a downgrade for him. He's also probably just due. I mean, I know we're talking about several months that he's done this, but he's probably just due for a little bit of regression anyway. So I don't know. I don't want to call him a sell high necessarily, but not great for Suarez's fantasy value.
I'm not as convinced. He's a different hitter. He's hitting the ball a lot harder. Strikeouts are still high, but they're a little bit lower. Park factors, the shorter the sample, the less park factors mean. And we're only talking about a couple months at this point. So is that difference between 6 and 8 homers? 8 and 9, 8 or 10 homers. I don't, at least on paper, it's not all that much. On paper, it's going to be a downgrade, but I don't know that I'm just not categorically dismissing Eugenio Suarez now. I think Seattle did what they needed to do. And we've talked for years about their pitching being so good. The funny thing this year was their pitching's hurt, not doing so well. Well, now the pitching's coming back and they got the bats. This is an interesting team. I don't know that you're going to want to face the Seattle Mariners in the playoffs.
All right. So Jeff, going back to your AL only league that's bidding tonight, let's say you need a third baseman in that league. Would you rather pay up for Eugenio Suarez, who sees a park downgrade of some sort going to Seattle and will cost quite a lot? Or would you rather pay for Ryan McMahon, who also sees a pretty big park downgrade, leaving Colorado, going to the Yankees, but presumably isn't going to cost as much? Would you rather be shopping in the McMahon tier or the Suarez tier?
Suarez tier, because I think McMahon's going to get platooned. He's as helpless as a baby seal versus a club against lefties. So I really don't think that you're going to see him play that off against lefties. Yes, he gets the short porch in Yankee Stadium. You could get the DJ LeMahieu-esque bump. There is a history of Colorado hitters leaving Coors Field and doing okay if they're good hitters to begin with. But I don't know if McMahon's a good hitter to begin with, and that's my problem. You look at those career home road splits; they're just pretty gruesome, and it's especially gruesome this year. He won't have to do that adapting process every time now they go on the road, but I'm not that sanguine on McMahon's prospects.
All right, fair enough. Anybody else here want to speak up for McMahon, or do you all agree with Jeff?
I will say McMahon did start against I think the only lefty they've faced so far. I believe that was also his first game, so I don't know if we can read a ton.
That was before Rosario too. That was before they added Rosario platoon with him.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well,
and Jose Caballero too, perhaps could be also working into the mix there in New York. We are not going to be able to talk about every trade that went down today. If you're interested in analysis of every single trade, I've been writing up RotoWire's MLB trade deadline tracker. You can use code YouTube15 to get 15% off a subscription to RotoWire, where you can check that out. I've got analysis of every single trade, or I say every single trade, the last handful, are waiting until tonight because I'm busy hosting a trade deadline live stream, which you should also check out. You may already be doing that. We are going to take a short break for a message from our sponsor. When we come back, though, going to ask James to quickly tell us about some of the prospects that we haven't covered yet, and then we're going to do our new closer draft. But first, let me tell you about the NFFC. The NFFC RotoWire Fantasy Football Online Championship is live. Play fantasy football against your favorite RotoWire experts on NFFC this baseball season. Jeff Erickson, Nick Whalen, and more will compete in the RotoWire NFFC Online Championship for a shot at $250,000. Sign up for a draft today at rotowire.com/high stakes. That's rotowire.com/high stakes. Welcome back, everybody, to the trade deadline roundtable here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Erik Halterman, joined by James Anderson, Ryan Boyer, Jeff Erickson, and Todd Zola. And James, I'm going to turn the floor over to you for 2 or 3 minutes here. We've talked about some of the top prospects who were dealt today. Why don't you give us 2 or 3 more who listeners should know about?
Sure, yeah. Carl Steven, who the Blue Jays traded straight up for Shane Bieber. Probably one of my favorite trades of the day in terms of just working out for both teams. I like the fit with Bieber and the Jays, and I especially like the fit of Steven with the Guardians because it's just such a classic, maybe even like a throwback to like a few years ago before they were bringing in like Luis Ortiz's and like Joey Cantillo's and stuff like that. Carl Steven, it's just the control first, and he's got a mid-90s fastball with pretty elite induced vertical break, and then just a few pretty solid secondary pitches, but it's just really all about the control with Steven. His 5.1% walk rate was like I think the second or the third best mark maybe at AA or at high A. So he's got 60 maybe even 70 grade control when it's all said and done, and I just love that fit in the Guardian system. The one thing with Steven is that he's on the 7-day IL, and I think that move happened like less than a week ago due to a shoulder impingement, which is believed to be mild, but just something to keep an eye on with Steven. But I think he was trending way up in the Jays system before the deal, and I think it's just a really nice landing spot for him. I will say like the trades today, like at the deadline, sometimes it makes me sort of reevaluate like how high I had a certain prospect. And after the deadline, I do feel like Cole Drake and Mick Abel, both kind of in the 100 to 150 range on the top 400. I kind of feel like they belong more in like the 150 to 200 range after today. And like Steven, I like maybe even more than I did before today. So like, after DeVries, Steven might be my favorite guy that got dealt today for fantasy. And then worth just mentioning what the Orioles were able to do. Coming into today, the Brewers were the only team with 20 plus players on the top 400, but the Orioles now have 20. They added just a bunch of guys from the Padres system. Obviously, it was a challenge to fill out the top 20 of the Padres farm system after today. But Victor Figueroa is a first baseman who got assigned to a rookie ball this year, despite the fact that he was 21. But he kind of took a circuitous route to the pros, playing in JUCO. But he's just kept rising the ranks, and the Orioles added Boston Bateman. They added Cobb Hightower, 2 guys I like in the Padres system. I like the Wellington Aracena pickup they had about a week ago as well. So just a really, really productive deadline for the Orioles. I know their fans weren't hoping that this would be another year of restocking the farm system, but I think they at least did the best they could as a seller. Like I wouldn't say that about every team that sold multiple players today, but I do think the Orioles maximized their return on the guys they sold.
Yeah, they got 6 players in that deal for Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano alone. So definitely helped restock their farm system today. Let's move on to the next thing I have on the agenda today, a new closers draft. This is one of the main topics for fantasy circles around the deadline. We got a whole bunch of new save opportunities that have just opened up. We are going to go one at a time. We'll do one rounds, maybe two, depending on how quick we go and how quickly we run out of names. Starting in, let's go clockwise from the top middle, and I hope that it's the same order on all of our screens. That means, Ryan, you get the first pick. Who is the first player who just became a possible closer that you would pick up this weekend?
Okay, question. Are we including Cade Smith in this group?
I was going to start things off by saying Cade Smith technically doesn't count, but he's my number one pick. But let's say Cade Smith doesn't count, but we'd probably take him ahead of all of these guys.
I would, but I don't think too far ahead of Randy Rodriguez. He would. I think that's a clear 1-2. I mean, I know we have Ryan Walker in San Francisco who has the closer experience, but he has regressed quite a bit this year. Randy Rodriguez has been just utterly dominant. I think his emergence is a huge reason why they felt okay dealing Camilo Doval. I know James is happy about that. But yeah, I think it's got to be Randy Rodriguez. I don't know if Melvin's going to come out and say he's got the job, but he's clearly the most talented and has a pretty clear path for saves now. Yeah,
I would agree. He would have been my number one as well. Jeff, who you got number two in the new closer draft?
I got sniped. Darn it. I'll go Dennis Santana on the Pirates. I think there's a threat that he's not the only one, but I think he got to say, at least he got a save on Tuesday when they were hiding Bednar. So yeah, we'll go Santana.
All right, Todd, over to you for pick number three.
I got my KDS. No. I mean, we talked about Perkins. We also talked about Romero. And you know what? The Cardinals still got some pretty decent pitching. They didn't gut the team. I think they're going to be some save ops. So I'm going to go Jojo Romero.
All right. Should I go with the just mentioned Perkins? I don't know if I will. I think I might. Maybe I'm wrong here. But I'm going to go Jose Ferrer of the Nationals simply because the Nationals, for whatever reason, have given all of the saves to Kyle Finnegan, even though he wasn't particularly good the last 2 years. I think it's been mentioned in the comments here. A lot of these teams look like they could just go with a committee, which makes this draft a little difficult. But I think the Nationals don't like doing that. And I think Jose Ferrer is the next guy. So I think of all the players left who could get, all but 2 of the remaining saves, I think I'll go Jose Ferrer. James, over to you for pick number 5.
All right. Well, yeah, I don't like my options here. I think just in the spirit of things, I'm not going to take Perkins. I'd rather roster Perkins, I think, but I don't think he's going to work as an actual closer. Like, I think he's going to get stretched out and move into the rotation. So I think I'll take Cole Sands. Even though I just said to not mess around with that bullpen, but the Twins bullpen, I should say, if you don't know what team Cole Sands pitches for, but it's like he would have definitely been the clear third guy in that bullpen at the beginning of the year. He got out pitched by some guys, but what do the Twins have to lose by giving Cole Sands some safe chances here? I think that could work out.
Other than games.
Yeah.
Well, they don't mind doing that.
True. I think we got enough for at least half of a round 2. Ryan, do you have a 6th pick here?
This doesn't snake. That's unfair to James.
Oh, true.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we're stuck with these guys the rest of the year. So, Ryan, who you got?
I'll ask another annoying question too. Can we include any of the Dodgers pitchers?
If you make a good case for it, you can do whatever you want.
Well, give me back Blake Trinan if so, but I feel like that's kind of cheating. So,
that's cheating.
I guess I gotta take Jack Perkins.
All right.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to go in the rotation. I hope he goes in the rotation. They give him a shot to do that, but of what's left, I think he's got to be the pick.
All right, Jeff, you have any names left?
Yeah, I do. I have 2, but I'll give you one. Got the save yesterday. Corbin Martin on the Orioles. Everybody else is gone. That's my theory of the case, except for Cano, and Cano stinks.
And in the
So,
draft, everybody's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Who would you pick next, Todd? Are you out of names? Do you have any left?
That was the last one that I had written down. I'm going through our list now to see who I may have missed. That I don't have to ask an annoying question: do they qualify or not? I don't have anybody that I think that would air quote qualify.
All right, so
At
we
this
got
point,
down to at least 7.
I don't see Rogers supplanting Palencia. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Like
Jeff
when they had
Benner
to institute the first round reversal in fantasy football drafts because of Priest Holmes, because he was so much better than
It was
everyone
LaDainian
else.
Tomlinson, but
LaDainian
that's okay.
Tomlinson.
it was LDT and Sean Alexander. Yep.
Yeah,
Are you
exactly.
saying Randy Rodriguez is the new LaDainian Tomlinson? All right, so Todd has passed. I'll give you one more name here. I'm basically out, but my one more name would actually be Ryan Walker, also in the Giants system, simply because he's picked up saves this year and last year, 10 apiece. Randy Rodriguez has been amazing. He's been better than Ryan Walker, and so I would expect him to be the guy. But if I'm making a long list of relievers to pick up, Ryan Walker's on it somewhere because the Giants might go to the guy who actually has the experience there. James, one final pick to you if you've got any, but don't force it. If you're out and you want to pass, we'll move on to the next thing.
I'll just take Riley O'Brien.
Yep.
He's been pitching great out of the Cardinals bullpen lately, so just taking a shot there.
So did we actually anybody pick an A? Because
Perkins.
someone
I picked Perkins for
Okay,
my.
I think we all declined on picking Perkins.
Yeah, I would definitely roster Perkins because even 2 or 3 innings of good outings, especially in my only leagues, I'll take that. Yeah, and the 12-team mixed league, no way. But I think that's something we'll pay attention to. I'll throw out Kyle Leahy as a name, even though they're stretching him out. I think he's still a good pitcher. It's not a guarantee that any of these Cardinals are, do well with the job right away. And they're a good enough team that they're going to have some saves to have. They're not like Minnesota Twins now where they strip mine their roster. They just traded a couple relievers basically.
Right. All right. Well, hopefully that gives you all some closer names to pick up this weekend. We've got one more thing on the agenda today, which is to talk about some of the smaller moves that matter that we have not yet gone over so far today. And I'm going to ask you to each give me one before we head out. Let's start with you, Jeff, because I know you may have to head out shortly before this thing ends. Give me one smaller move we haven't discussed yet that you think matters the rest of the way.
Okay, so I don't think we talked about Cabrian Hayes or any of the other Reds moves. So let's have some fun. Let's rip into
Reds
it.
corner. Let's go.
Hey, I tweeted this out. I'm going to repeat my own joke because that's always really popular to do. But, like Tony Soprano said after his coma, life is a gift. Any go for it trade is a gift. But why does it have to be a pair of socks? Cabrian Hayes is a 600 OPS guy, great defender. And I know Noelvi Marte is atrocious with the glove. I get that. But my goodness, you have Stewart. You have Collier in the system. You have 2 third basemen in the system. And yet you got a guy that you're committing to for the next 4 years on Cabrian Hayes who, hey, maybe we can teach them how to pull the ball and hit for power. And no one, the Pirates are never able to do it, and the Reds don't do that with their current players. But sure, maybe it could happen. We could dream on that. Not really sure what they're doing there. I don't really think the defense matters that much. I could be proven wrong on that. It could be Brewers Ohio version here, where every little defensive edge matters, but I don't think so. I'm a little concerned about that. Zach Littell, adding him, guy that's given up 26 homers, including 18 on the road, including 2 in Cincy. And moving Nick Martinez to the bullpen, I don't really know if I like that. I guess, especially when you're paying Martinez what you're paying him, that's another baffling move. I like the Miguel Andujar addition, a good right-handed bat, but that cost them nothing and hard to bank on that. But I do like what they did with that one, at least.
On that Hayes deal, do you read anything into the fact that it was a division rival who was willing to trade a player locked up on a long-term deal to the Reds? Or do you think, it's the Pirates? They're not necessarily making the most logical competitive moves anyway.
It was logical because they saved $38 million and, nothing more that Bob Nutting likes than saving money. But they did get one of James's barely top 400 prospects in the deal there. That's better than what they were getting from Hayes right now, I think. So I know they did fine with that.
All right. Do we need to let you go, Jeff?
No, I'll hang for another 10. I'm good.
All right. Sounds good. Let's jump over then to Todd. You give me one lesser move we haven't discussed yet that deserves mention.
I'm still stuck on James Outman, and I shouldn't be, but I am. And now there's a new life. So now I can't drop AL Labor because I get to bid on him next year. I don't know. I look for the under the radar sort of guy of that nature that gets a second, change of scenery sort of thing. But the problem is I can't point to anything Outman's done to say, look, he's buried. He's just so many guys in front. He's been terrible. So go with the glove. So that part of the argument just isn't there. But I just remember him and Corbin Carroll and the Evan Carter. They all kind of were the same player, and I fell in love with all three of them. And I need to fall in love with better players.
Yeah, sounds about right. But there should be playing time available there in Minnesota for Outman or for a whole bunch of players. We talked about earlier, this is the team that's been the most cleared out. So if anybody's been hoping for Brooks Lee, Cody Clemens to play every single day, they were actually already getting close to it, but pretty firm grips on jobs.
By the way, Brian Hayes just biffed a possible double play grounder to get out of the inning there. So I thought that was just appropriate for this.
No way.
There you go.
Just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, he could have done that.
Oh,
yeah.
He olayed that. Oh my gosh.
Oof. Well, off to a good start for how many more years are you paying Brian Hayes?
I think 7 more, 12 more. I don't know. The rest of my life.
Exciting. Until the end of the world. Well, should we go over to you, Ryan? How about you give me one under-discussed move that deserves a little more attention?
It's hard for me to quit Jesus Sanchez. The guy just hits the ball so incredibly hard. I feel like he's been perpetually in one tweak away from becoming a monster, and he just hasn't quite gotten there yet. Not come that close to getting there, but still relatively young, 27 years old. Like I said, he's hitting the ball incredibly hard still, 46.4% hard hit rate this season. He's actually cut his strikeout rate every year. It's down to just below or just above 20% this year. So making more contact, and maybe the Astros can figure something out with him. I know park-wise overall, it's not that much of a difference, but home run-wise, it is an upgrade for him going to Daikon Park, is it now? So obviously a much better lineup in Houston. So can't totally quit Jesus Sanchez. So I'm hanging strong with him as my OF5 in fantasy leagues.
All right. I'm going to go over to James next, but I'll mention real quick to anyone in the chat, if there's one more deal that you would really hope we discussed. We've got, 6 more minutes here. So throw it out there and we'll try to get to it before the end. But James, what is your nomination for a smaller deal that deserves some more attention here?
Yeah, so I mentioned, I think Merrill Kelly is definitely the best starter to get traded today. But what if I told you there was a starter who's going from the 10th best park to hit in to the 25th best park to hit in, and they have a 107 whip and 59 strikeouts in 50 and a third innings over the last 10 starts? Like Michael Soroka to the Cubs. He's been pitching like a guy that you just leave in your lineups in 15-team leagues over the past couple months, and he's getting a massive team upgrade, and maybe he'll even get a little bit better with some new coaching and some new ideas. And the Cubs just didn't have to give up anything for this guy. Like the 2 prospects they traded, Ronnie Cruz and Christian Franklin, didn't even crack my top 20 for the Nationals, and the Nationals only had 13 guys ranked in the top 400. So just a brilliant move by the Cubs. Not sure how that was so easy for them to pull off. I'm looking at their rotation. He's behind Imanaga, he's behind Boyd, but just rest of season, like Soroka versus Horton, Soroka versus Ray, Soroka versus Brown. I might take him over all those guys. And I think him versus Boyd, even just factoring in Boyd's age and health issues, I think is pretty close. So I just think the Cubs nailed it with the Soroka trade. Yeah,
I like that one for them too. You have to believe that Soroka deserves his ERA estimators and not his ERA, but I believe he's got the lowest xERA among Cubs starters, the second lowest SIERA. The actual ERA hasn't been there yet, but I'm with you on liking this one a lot for the Cubs, assuming Soroka with a better defense behind him too can pitch more in line with those ERA estimators. I also like it because it probably kicks Ben Brown out of the rotation, which means I don't have to worry about starting him and blowing up my ratios any more than he already has. I'll give you my under-discussed one first. There's a couple more from the chat. Dave McDonald shouts Charlie Morton. Anybody here excited for Charlie Morton's move to the Tigers? Is he this deadline's Jack Flaherty?
He's been cromulent lately. I'll give him that. And he goes to a pretty decent ballpark to pitch in, so I can see it happening. See it being useful at least. Same with Paddock for that matter.
All right, a couple more from the chat here. Bailey Falter was dealt. Are we finally going to see Bubba Chandler? James, you've got your secret sources on this one. Is Bubba Chandler finally coming up?
Oh man, I do not have a line into the decision making on that team, but let's just see how he's been doing lately at AAA. More walks and Ks in his last start. I mean, what do they have to lose at this point? Like I would assume they would wait until like late August just to have the extra year of control and potentially get a draft pick next year if he wins Rookie of the Year. But like he's just not even he's not pitching well enough for me to even be like that excited if he did get the call. Like I just think he's going through a lot of stuff right now. I think he's been mismanaged. I think he could really use an off season to kind of get dialed back in and stop trying to pitch his way to the big leagues every start. So maybe he's up, but like I think he's just as likely to light your ratios on fire as help you if he does come up.
Jhoan Oviedo is going to come up instead now. He's all
true.
About ready.
Oviedo, get ready.
Yeah, I would scoop Oviedo in really deep leagues.
Yeah, he looked good before he got hurt. Another one here from the chat: Adrian Hauser to Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay loses Zach Littell, gains Adrian Hauser, who to me looks kind of a lot like Zach Littell. Hauser has been way out pitching his peripherals, but somehow when guys go to Tampa Bay, we just like them a lot more. So,
we liked
Hauser the rest of the way. Well,
we liked them a lot more.
Park. Yeah.
Do we still like them a lot more? I don't know that we still do.
Yeah, fair point. But Adrian Hauser has looked better of late. Are there
3 homers
in
in 68 innings?
Yeah, that's pretty good, and also probably not that sustainable. There was a mention of Mick Abel getting out of the way, helping Andrew Painter's path, although I think Andrew Painter was going to come up when the Phillies decide he's ready. I think Mick Abel hadn't pitched well enough to block Painter anyway. I'll give you my under-discussed trade, or as in one we haven't really talked about. We talked about the other side of this, but Shane Bieber to the Blue Jays. James did discuss Cal Stevens, the prospect that went back, and talked about how he's a pretty real prospect. And to me, that means that there was probably some real bids for Shane Bieber if the Blue Jays had to give up a real prospect to get him. And that probably means that multiple different teams are feeling fairly confident in Bieber's health down the stretch. He's already had one setback coming back from Tommy John surgery, but are any of you guys encouraged by this? Do you see this price and say, okay, I think actually Shane Bieber, teams like him?
I think it's just kind of the Blue Jays taking a very calculated gamble. Like you have a chance to add the best pitcher moved at the deadline in Bieber. You might get absolutely nothing for it, but I just think they went for it, and they saw the market on guys like Joe Ryan, and they saw the market on Dylan Cease, and they knew the risks with Bieber. And I think other teams also saw that as just we can give up our like 5th or 6th best prospect for a chance at like a SP2 for 2 months and into the postseason.
Yeah, I can simultaneously defend Toronto for doing that, and also suggest that, hey, most pitchers coming back from Tommy John are wild as heck, and I wouldn't count on him being that great going forward. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good point. If we're often scared to use pitchers in their first, 6 starts coming back from Tommy John surgery, well, okay, in your playoff fantasy leagues, you can use Shane Bieber, but I'm not sure how excited you'll be to use him down the stretch here. I think that's going to do it for us, though, because some of us have to run. You got one more thought, Jeff?
One more thought. Guys, we look at the Brewers trade deadline any differently with the knowledge now that Jackson Chourio is probably going on the IL. The fact that they didn't trade for anything beyond, just the return in the San Diego deal with the Brandon Lockridge. I mean, is Lockridge going to be that, good enough of an inclusion? If Chourio misses a month, are we regretting not doing more offensively for the Brewers? We may have already regret it as it is.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously like Lockridge. They did that on purpose, knowing Chourio was going on the IL, and he's a glove first guy. So, I mean, Isaac Collins, Blake Perkins, Brandon Lockridge, these are just Brewers guys. They're not that exciting in fantasy. They steal bases, but they only play like 3 or 4 days a week. So it's frustrating. I just, they are so bought into this all defense, all speed, all hustle, like identity that they have. And I just think they're so scared to bring in like a pillar of salt that's going to stand in left field and mess up their whole vibes with long innings due to pass balls and stuff like that. So I think they knew what they were doing. I think they like where they're at, positioned in the standings and stuff. And he's probably going to be out for a month, and we'll see. Like it's I'm sure they had their reasons, but I just don't know what was out there.
All right. Well,
can Yelich play in the outfield?
Oh, good question. Has he played much at all?
Not a ton.
I don't think they're going to rely on him there.
You got Andrew Vaughn, and you got Rhys Hoskins coming back. Vaughn was like a mini, Jake Berger, and then his underlying metrics are really strong, but he wasn't getting results. Not quite to the level of Berger. And now Vaughn's getting the results. I don't think we're not seeing total fluke here. Vaughn's underlying metrics are pretty good, but Yelich is the DH. So I don't know how much we get to see Vaughn when Hoskins is back.
Yeah, 12 games in the outfield for Yelich this season. He does have, 1 a week-ish or so, so maybe that gets up to 2 or 3 a week in Chourio's absence, but doesn't look like somebody who's about to spend every day in the field. I think that's going to wrap things up for us, though. I know we could talk forever. There's a million deals that went on today, but it was been a busy day for all of us. We've got to get moving. So thank you all for giving me an hour of your time on this trade deadline day. And thank you to the chat. A very busy one. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. We will have another show tomorrow here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Todd, that's you and Clay, right? Talking 2-star pitchers?
Yeah, why not? We'll keep it going.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to our sponsor, the NFFC. RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We'll be back tomorrow.